The D&D multiverse has a long history, and some ancient events might have affected all worlds, regardless of the campaign setting in question. For example, most of you probably know about the Blood War, the endless war between demons and devils that is usually contained to the lower planes, but sometimes spills over to the other planes, including the material one. But the Blood War is merely a continuation of a much more ancient conflict. Forces of chaos and law were at war in the age before ages, when mortal life was barely a thing. The forces of chaos were led by the Queen of Chaos, an Obirith demon lord, and Miska the wolf spider, her demon lord consort. The forces of law were led by the Vaati, also known as the Wind Dukes of Aaqa. These beings of elemental air managed to expand their empire and conquer all the elemental planes, with many planets on the material plane. Eventually, they managed to turn the war into a stalemate and then an easy peace, despite that bringing their empire to ruin. The balance was sort of restored, but the demons and devils kept fighting. That's how the Blood War started. What I find fascinating about this conflict is that it's unusually asymmetrical. Lawful empire of beings from the elemental plane of air fighting against chaotic evil Obiriths, various archomentals joining one side or another. It really does feel very chaotic and primordial, for the lack of a better word. It's also something that spawned some interesting monsters that were left in AD&D and never got updated in the more recent D&D editions, such as elementals of law and chaos, the spider fiends, etc. And since this war affected many worlds, you can introduce its remnants in any setting in the D&D multiverse. Since the Vaati had an empire that spanned the elemental planes and many material worlds, your characters could find ruins or artifacts that come from an age before all other lost ancient civilizations of the setting. And what would a ruined city of the Vaati look like somewhere, for example, on the elemental plane of fire? This is making my imagination run wild. So who are the Vaati? They actually exist in D&D 3.0, but the stat block is hidden away in a very unexpected place, a web enhancement for Oriental adventures. Despite being elemental air entities, the Vaati are solid and humanoid. They are androgynous with smooth ebony skin and white eyes. Slightly taller than humans, they were imposing figures. They rarely wore any clothing and usually shaved their hair. This description and the stat block seem to imply size modifier +1, strength +6, IQ +2 and HT +1. They also seem to have DR1 with tough skin. Since they are beings of air, they also possess a magical ability to fly slowly. They are said to be attractive and androgynous. Let's give them appearance handsome/beautiful with androgynous. The Vaati also are beings of order. I will give them vulnerability to anarchic weapons and the axiomatic touch perk, that will make their natural weapons count as axiomatic weapons. The Wind Dukes of Aaqa are ageless, but they still require sustenance, even if just a little bit. I will give them unaging and reduced consumption 4. They also can see in the dark, so I will give them infravision. As masters of elemental air, the Vaati get resistance to air-based attacks and non-damaging air effects such as the embolism spell. Since the Vaati have been known to live all over the elemental planes, I will give them temperature tolerance 8. Finally, we have the spell-like abilities. They had Endure Elements, Featherfall, Gust of Wind and Windwall as at-will spell-like abilities. Endure Elements isn't necessary, I already gave them passive temperature tolerance. Featherfall doesn't make sense, they can fly and it's better. We have Gust of Wind and Windwall left. I decided to replace Windwall with my Enveloping Winds spell that protects against ranged attacks, and Gust of Wind became Airjet 3 from the sorcery book. In terms of mentality, the Vaati are generally peaceful beings, so I will give them pacifism cannot harm innocence. They are lawful beings that have trouble coming up with something new. I will give them honesty 9 and hidebound. That's the base template done. But here's something I neglected. The Vaati have a caste-based society, and the caste actually affects the stat block in some cases. The Vergadim is the worker caste. They don't really have anything special, so they use the base stat block. The Hodim is a caste of civil and military leaders, guards and soldiers. They have increased natural armor bonus, so I will upgrade DR from 1 to 2 and give them combat reflexes. They also have an ability to animate their swords, but I don't like it, so I will skip it. The Haikjadim is a caste of teachers, investigators and lore keepers. I will give them eidetic memory and 2 new spell-like abilities, personal true seeing and atmosphere dome too. The Trigridim is the caste of farmers, animal keepers and judges. Like the Hudim, they have increased DR, and I will also give them animal empathy and empathy. The book says that they also should get atmosphere dome, but I will remove this ability to make the previous caste more unique. The Cairdim is a caste of physicians and counselors. Instead of whatever the book tells me to give them, I will give them empathy and healer 1, that's a talent. The Vindim is a caste of philosophers, guardians and advisors. I'll give them 2 levels of the Sage talent from GURPS Fantasy. There is also the rumored 7th caste, the Wendim, who wander the lands and plains on an unknown mission. Let's give them 3D spatial sense, absolute timing and eidetic memory. And here's what the final result looks like. The Vaati don't really have anything extremely interesting in terms of abilities, but their intriguing lore and society can be a great addition to any D&D style game. Personally, I haven't used them yet, but I really want to try that, so maybe I'll try to integrate them into my next game. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.